and then start, inshallah. Thank you for coming. Those of you who have been coming to this class for a while, you know that this is a chapter in words that starts with a major Quranic passage, which refers to signs of God on the horizons and in our souls. And so these 33 windows are meant to be 33 openings from a variety of things in the world that lead us to knowing our Creator more through His beautiful names. And as we have always been emphasizing, the idea is to be grounded in seeing the world outside and inside as pointing to beautiful names of God, as pointing to Allah's presence. And this is a training as well, that we are, inshallah, trying to train ourselves the way we are in the world, the way we see the world and perceive the world and interact with the world in God's name, inshallah. And Dr. Yamina is leading the study as usual, and you're welcome to ask questions or share comments during the class or at the end of the class, inshallah. And so without further delay, we turn to Dr. Yamina. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So I think someone last week asked us to remind from time to time what we are reading, and that's why Isra made this clarification. So we are what we are reading is from a work called Risalet Nur, in Turkish Risale Nur, which is the equivalent of Risalet Nur, the Treatise of Light. The author, Imam Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, he says that he named it the Treatise of Light because it is dependent, or it was dependent when it was written, on the light, the nur of the Quran. And it was like an inspiration. He said it was born out of my conscience, and I was convinced that it was divine inspiration. It means it was the result, all this work is the result of his reflections on the ayat of the Quran. And the whole thing, the so-called Risalat Nur, they are treatises, and they are composed of mainly 4 main volumes. The first one is the words, from which we are now reading, and we read before, like the 6th word. And I think we did the 11th word as well together. And then there is the letters and the flashes and the rays. And these 4 volumes together, they constitute, or they contain 130 chapters, I think, on different themes from the Quran. Some of the chapters are quite short, like few pages, but some are long, like up to 80, 90 pages. And what we're reading now is the 33rd word, which is also the last treatise of the first volume, called The Words. And it consists of 33 windows onto the light and the guidance of primarily the ayah mentioned at the beginning, which Isra just mentioned as well. And the ayah is ayah 53 of Surah Fussilat, Surah 41. We shall show them, Sanurihim ayatina, we shall show them our ayat, our signs, in the furthest horizons as well as within themselves, so that it will become clear to them that this is indeed the truth. Is it not enough that your Rabb, your sustainer, witnesses all things? And so these windows may seem independent. So from one aspect, they could be read independently of each other, but in many ways they are also, they build on each other, as we've seen so far. And each one emphasizes a very important concept in the Quran. And we've seen like ahadiyya and wahidiyya, and now tasbih and dhikr and things like that. Generally speaking, this work, Risalat al-Nur, is, you can say, from it's a type of tafsir, of interpretation or commentary on the Quran, but it does not comment on the Quran from beginning to end, following the numerical order of the Quran from beginning to end, as it is often done in classical tafsir commentaries. Well, let me not go there. But I mean, you all know that the Quran as we have it now does not follow the chronological order, because the chronological order was, the Quran was revealed in pieces. It was not like one day the Prophet ﷺ went out and found this book. So it's not a book in that sense. Even when we think of book, that's not the Quran. That's only a codex of the writing of the message that indicates meaning. Those meanings are the Quran. And so it was, as it was revealed during a 23 years period of time, it was revealed each time according to when something was going on, and the revealed, or the revelation came there to fulfill a purpose and guide the people. And so when we interact with the Quran, we are not going to, we can study it from beginning to end, but even when we are studying, it does not mean that it is going to reveal itself to us, or that we are going to benefit from it just because we are reading and studying. We study and it stays there until something happens in our life and it reminds us of something we learned, and what we learn will bring light and disclose the meaning and the guidance in the events in life that are also ayat, also signs from God, bearing messages from God. And so that's why this kind of tafsirs, if we call them tafsirs, they are how to say, classified as tafsir, does not follow the chronological order. The chronological doesn't follow the order of the Quran as we know it now, ayah by ayah. And in a way, it's also a thematic tafsir. It also differs from them in terms of method and style. And so far, the more you read, the more you realize that. And in a sense, it's a book of irshad. It teaches us how to reflect. Last week in Ayah 12, we were taught how to make tasbih, for instance, how to, in a very, it was a simple how to make tasbih, you find it everywhere in Risalat al-Nur. But in the 12th window, because it was a reflection on sabbih, like perform the tasbih, glorify God, make tasbih. So it was a short window on how to practice tasbih, for instance. So it teaches how to reflect on the creation by means of the ayat of the Quran. It teaches how to listen, how to hear divine guidance and follow it in order to cultivate Iman and live with it in a state that will lead to a state of ihsan, inshallah. And talking about the Quran, I wanted to share, so why I said that, because I wanted to share how Imam Nursi, rahimahullah, defines the Quran in the 25th, at the beginning of the 25th word. The 25th word is about the miraculousness of the Quran, not only that the language is miraculous, like many people emphasize, which is totally correct, I believe. But the miracle of the words of the language is miraculous because of the meanings it indicates. So even when we are not experts of the language, we can still, and we should benefit, because most of the population, even Arab-speaking population, are not experts in language. We should be able to see how miraculous it is because of the meanings that the words indicates. So there he starts with what is the Quran? So he says the Quran is the pre-eternal translator of the mighty book of the universe. It is the translator of the universe. It's a book in the sense that it is meaningful. It has a message. The Quran is also the post-eternal interpreter of the various tongues reciting the verses of creation. The ayat, actually, the original is the ayat of the creation. So the ayat in the creation, if they could speak, they will start speaking the Quran. It means the Quran has the meaning, gives us the meaning of the various tongues of the different beings of in the creation. The Quran is also the commentator, the tafsir of the book of the worlds, of the seen and the unseen. Alim al-ghayb wa shahada. So the seen is what we see, this world, and the unseen, which the Quran talks about, and the Quran tells us how the world of the unseen reflects and makes known the unseen. The Quran is the revealer of the treasuries of the divine names hidden in the heavens and on the earth. So everywhere the treasures of the divine names are hidden, and the Quran is the map that gives us the key to unlock those treasures and benefits from the divine names. It is the key to the truths concealed beneath the lines of events. All events are created with purpose and meaning and wisdom. And how do we learn that? The Quran teaches us that. It gives us the key to the truth beneath the lines of events. The tongue of the unseen world in the manifest world. The treasury of the post-eternal favors of the most merciful and of the pre-eternal addresses of the most holy, Qudus, which come from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world. It is the sun, foundation, and plan. The sun, because the sun is in a way a reflection of the name Nur, light. When there is darkness, we don't see what's going on. When there is light, lo and behold, everything becomes clear. So it is the sun, the Quran is the sun, the foundation, the plan of the spiritual world of Islam, the sacred map. It is the sacred map of the worlds of the hereafter, the expounding word, lucid exposition, decisive proof, and clear interpreter of the divine essence, attributes, names, and functions. Shu'unat here, functions. It is the instructor of the world of humanity. It is the light and water of Islam, the macroanthropos, the true wisdom of humankind, the true guide and leader, urging humanity to prosperity and happiness. This is something that is repeated again and again in the Quran. When you don't follow the guidance of the Quran, there will be only loss and you will be losers. And if you follow, that's what the adhan also says, Hayya al-falah, come to prosperity, come to happiness. It is both a book of law and a book of prayer and a book of wisdom and a book of worship and a book of command and summons and a book of invocation and a book of thought and a unique, comprehensive, sacred book comprising many books to which recourse may be had for all the needs of all humankind. It is a revealed scripture resembling a sacred library which offers treatises suitable for all the various ways and different paths of all the saints and the veracious ones, and the wise and the learned, which is appropriate for the illuminations of each way and enlightens it, and it is suitable for the course of each path and depicts it. So this is the understanding of the Quran from that Imam Nursi proposes, and he follows all in many ways. He's expounding all these definitions, using each time the help and the light and the guidance of various ayat, verses from the Quran. So if you remember last week, we studied.
Could I just jump in here? So this was a very rich and long definition of the Quran, and it's very rich, because usually, even when Muslims themselves are defining what the Quran is, we tend to give technical information. It was revealed to so and so, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, with in 23 years when he was in Mecca and Medina, and these are this information itself doesn't say anything about the content, and doesn't say anything about how to approach it. We add, it has some rules and some commandments and so on, but it doesn't go really beyond that. So this is a very rich definition, and as you say, this is something that can help us approach the Quran more authentically, more give it its due, approach it more profoundly, more deeply. If it's okay with you, if you agree, what if we take a pause here and see how people feel about these definitions, because especially the ones in the beginning are very unusual. To think about the Quran as translating the book of the universe. What does that mean? Or interpreter of various tongues reciting the verses, ayat of creation. The creation are reciting ayat, and and Quran translates that to a language we can understand. What's happening? I mean, I just, if that's okay with you, I just wanted to see if people have any comments, any responses to this idea. Anyone? What do you think about these definitions? Are you able to follow? Is there are these definitions adding anything new? Anything you want to share? The floor is yours.
My concept before of of creation is that creation is a beautiful place, and like I was always fascinated by the beauty of creation, and I appreciated it, and I still appreciate it. But I did not see, like, for most of my life I did not see that like the Quran helps me, like it becomes the, like, you know, the book of the universe. It tells me, what does this universe mean for me? You know, the universe around me was beautiful and I enjoyed its beauty, and that was the end of it. Like, it didn't tell me anything. and and for some reason I was satisfied with that, you know, that's it. Like, it's out there, it's beautiful, and you see another thing that's beautiful. And so, like, I think, like, when Yamina started to introduce us to the work of Nursi, and to, like, you know, to actually this Quran that you're holding in your hands and reading guides you to the meaning of the universe. This universe is here to speak to you, and it has something profound that is related to who you are on earth and what are you supposed to do on earth. That in itself was a revelation. Like, that was a very new concept to me. So I know some of our audience today are new audience, so, like, which state are you in? And some who have been here before, maybe they can share, like, you know, what was their idea of the Quran and what is it now, and what does this mean to them. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
Okay, Yamina, maybe you should start giving attendance grade so that people will speak.
I can share. Assalamu alaikum. This is my first time actually attending. I am a bit late because I didn't know that it was today until, like, I saw the notification. But for me, I think I would say in the past 3-4 years, I started to realize that the Quran has the answer to everything in my life. And it was mainly through the stories of the prophets, and not just stories, but I refer to them as experiences that I could learn from and really know how to apply it to my day-to-day life and make the decisions and the choices that would kind of bring peace to my heart. It's not, I definitely didn't see the Quran that way, you know, since when I was younger. I'm 25. I was about to say since I was young. So it was, but it definitely, as I started to really get into the stories of why did this happen and how did this happen and how does it apply to me, and, you know, I started to notice more my surroundings, the people that I interact with, the little things in life that I wouldn't notice otherwise. So I don't really, like, I wasn't here for the classes before that, so I can't really speak for what you guys have gone over, you know, but this is just where I am at right now, and I'm trying to build a better connection and understanding of the Quran, and just overall utilize it better because it is given to us. It's not just, it's like a, you know, I would say it, I mean, I don't want to compare the Quran to GPS, but in a way it's like, if we want to survive in this dunya and we want to find our way and stay connected to our creator, then that's the only way to do it, you know, pretty much. But we're given the tool, and I never used to see it that way, obviously, before that, but as the years are going by, I'm starting to see it more clearly. Like, I'm it's like as if I didn't have my glasses on, you know, and now all of a sudden I'm able to see it and like, oh my God, I need this. And so there's like this, I would say, inner calling that is pushing me to learn more, understand it better. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Elaha. That was beautiful. Thank you.
So, what was your question, really?
What was my question?
Yeah, what?
I just want to see how people felt about the definition of the Quran that you read. What was new? What was interesting? And so, you know, when Dr. Alia said, well, I used to think differently about creation, but now I never thought of creation as having a message to convey to me. That was helpful to hear for me personally.
There's someone who was starting to speak, but I don't know who it was. I heard the voice.
Oh, Naima.
I just wanted
Your voice is your volume is very low, Naima. If you can raise the volume.
Can you
We can
hear
read.
me now? Can you hear me now?
Better. A little bit better, yes.
Better. Hold on. Let me switch this really quickly. Can you hear me okay?
Better.
Better? Okay.
Right.
Can you hear me better now? Having issues here. So I just wanted to, you know, touch base about, or not share, you know, how my perspective on the Quran has changed. I feel like I'm in this rehabilitation phase of really getting to understand the Quran more as an interaction and not just like a book of rules. And I feel like that has been a process that has transformed my outlook, because similar to the sister that has shared, what I've realized in doing that and being actively engaged in that way with the Quran, that it is speaking more to me. And I think that part of the speaking more is that I am being more open to it, to view it in a different way as a guide, because it's the living message of Allah, like in the guidance. And so if you feel something, in my perspective, from my experience, that if you feel like it's a living book, like it's a living guide and it's applicable to all times and all things, that it will really transform how you view it. Like, what is the Quran? Like, that's the question that you guys are asking. What is the Quran, and why was it sent, and what does it mean? Like, and just going into even just like a little bit of exploring that, your window of viewing the message in its entirety is just mind-blowing, because it doesn't even scrape the surface. And so, you know, I would say that I was taught the Quran to understand it like a book of rules, and not a way that Allah is lovingly communicating to us, lovingly guiding us to do exactly what our soul craves for, lovingly trying to connect with you as a creator. That has been transformative.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Naima.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing. And Dr. Yamina, we're back to you.
Yeah, so I was saying, like last week, we reflected on the 12th window, and it was a reflection on the 3 first verses of Surah Al-A'la. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى, which is سبح, make tasbih, glorify the name of your Rab, your sustainer, the all highest, who has created and given order and proportion, and who has determined the nature of all things and guided them towards their fulfillment. And it was like a sample of how to make tasbih by means of the guidance of this ayah. So we were taught how to look at the order and the proportion, the form and shapes of things, and how they were being given. And as they were changing, they were given at each step, and how that was tasbih, they were pointing to the divine names. And remember, tasbih is a negation of shirk, basically. And when we can read the sign, when we learn to read the signs and to find the beautiful names reflected within them, or how they are announcing and glorifying, praising God with his beautiful names, then we are by default negating shirk. When we are not doing this, by default, we are in a state of shirk, because when we are not consciously attributing everything to the one sustainer, creator, giver of existence, maker and creator of everything, we are by default either ignoring that totally, or in fact, without realizing, we are ascribing things to other things, effects to so-called causes. So we stuck in the horizontally giving one thing to another without even questioning it. And the only way to avoid this state of shirk, especially for believers, for Muslims, mostly unwanted shirk, is to consciously know God, consciously perform the Shahada, consciously observe and witness and testify to that there is no God but God, means no creator but God, no giver of form but God, no giver of life but God. And that is what tasbih is. When we are doing this, the process is the process of tasbih. So it is basically negating shirk. And in the 12th window, it was a sample of how to make tasbih. And we could not have the time to look through, but I think we did look through a few passages from the Quran where we are told sabbih, like at the beginning of the 12th window. We are told to glorify God, to make tasbih. We are told that only those who make tasbihs are true believers. It means if you don't know how to make tasbih, and if you are not making tasbih, you cannot be a true believer. You don't know what you're believing in. And now we also discussed how our making tasbih is connected with recognizing and acknowledging that actually things are also making tasbih. It means they are praising God with his beautiful names. They are saying by their tongues of disposition, their hal, their state of beings, that they are not the result of chance or something else is making them. The way they are all interconnected, the way they all work, almost like as if they were conscious, as if they knew everything, is evidence and indicates someone that they are being made with the will of someone who knows everything, has power over everything, controls everything. And so they are declaring, they are making shahada, they are praising God with his beautiful names, and that's their tasbih. And this is the topic of this 13th window today. And the 13th window is a reflection of وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. And there is nothing, not a thing, except that it extols it glorifies God with praise. It makes tasbih with praise, with hamd. And this is also a theme that is repeated a lot in the Quran with various emphasis. So today, inshallah, Bismillah, maybe someone can read and share with us, and we can learn how things are making tasbih. I'm not saying this is telling us how everything is making tasbih. It's only one small sample. Actually, this is the end of the 30th word. Even in the 30th word, it's full of examples of things making tasbih. So if you read the whole thing, you will become very familiar of what is tasbih and how to read it. And this is just a very short sample, and it is related to the 12th one. I think it's talking about, again, the shape and forms of things. And it's nice to focus on one example, because once we become proficient at reading one thing, then we can apply it to everything else, inshallah. Bismillah. Shall we start by reading the
I
30th?
would like to read 13th window.
Inshallah, yes.
If not, I'm going to read, and I have a thick accent. So, last call. Naima, can you read?
I can.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
A little,
Okay.
yeah, a little more loud.
Okay, let me see what's happening here. I'm having mic issues here. Okay, I'm going to start. 1 second. My screen here is acting up. I apologize. Okay, 13th word. That's what I'm reading.
Window. Yeah, I mean.
Window. 13th window.
In 33rd word.
33rd word. 33rd. Hold on a second. 33rd word.
Naima has the actual text in front of her. She has the book.
And I do not see the 13th window here on the link that I'm looking at right now. I'm sorry, I'm not ready.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm sorry I put you on the spot. No worries. No worries. Okay. Is there anyone else?
I can read Isrâ, inshallah. 13th window. According to the meaning of, and there is nothing but extols his limitless glory and praise. Everything recalls its creator through its own particular tongue and declares to his holiness. Yes, the glorifications all beings utter audibly and through the tongues of their beings demonstrate the existence of a single, most holy being. The testimony of innate disposition may not be rejected, especially if the evidence comes from all sides. It cannot be doubted. Look, the well-ordered forms of beings, which through their manner of creation comprise endless testimony and offer evidence in innumerable ways through the tongue of disposition, and look to a single center like concentric circles. All these are tongues. Similarly, their well-proportioned and balanced assemblages are all testifying tongues, and their perfect lives are all glorifying tongues. Thus, as is proved in the 24th word, their glorifying, extolling, and testifying to a single most holy being through all these tongues demonstrate a necessarily existent one, as light shows the sun, and point to the perfection of his Godhead.
Thank you. Just some clarification at the beginning when it says everything recalls its creator through its own particular tongue and declares to his holiness. Declares to his holiness is taqdees. When it says, as is proven in 24th word, the glorifying, extolling, and testifying to a single most holy, holy is muqaddas, it is tasbihat, glorifying, tahiyyat, extolling, well, I guess glorifying and extolling is, and testifying to a single most, yeah, okay, that's different. So tahiyyat, glorifying and extolling, is tasbihat and tahiyyat, and that's what we do in during the prayer when we say tahiyyatu lillah.
And Dr. Yamina, at the very end, it says, point to the perfection of his Godhead. What would that be in Arabic?
Where is that?
And at the very end, the very last bit. Kemal uluhiye.
Gösterdiği gibi bir zati vacibul vücudu gösterir ve kemali uluhiye. It's just uluhiye.
Yeah, uluhiye. Godhead here is uluhiye. He's being God.
He's uluhiye. He's being Allah. Ilah. He's being God.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So, shall we have, like last time, maybe groups, and
Yes.
rather than, let's have people reflect on this. It's a short paragraph after all, and it's talking about how everything is glorifying God from one small aspect, because there are so many, and they are one within another. So Isra, maybe you can have...
The rooms are ready. Bismillah.
Yeah. So inshallah, let's discuss, and you can keep some point, anything that attracts your attention. And instead of trying to understand the text, listen to the text. What is this text saying that is new, or new? You don't have to agree with it. That attracts your attention, in either because it's something that makes sense, or something that you still can't make sense of, or, but let's listen to the text rather than just talk about it indirectly. Let's learn to listen to something. What is this paragraph telling us, inshallah? Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. So are we back, inshallah?
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Yes, we are.
So let's go ahead and share, inshallah.
Safina, I volunteer you, inshallah, to share for our group.
And I volunteer Khadija Beza to chair for our group.
And I volunteer Sister Maha.
to share for our group.
Okay.
I volunteer Jalila to share for our group.
No, Maha. It was Ziba and me said you.
Okay.
And Sarah, I still want you to do it, please. I'm new and I'm not so good at this.
No, because you are new, mashallah, we want to give you the mic. And it's Aliyat's technique that we're all taking now of volunteering others. Mashallah, you shared everything so beautifully, Safina. There was your reflection, so please.
Okay, Sarah and I were talking about nature and how, you know, when you look at nature, it is a proof of Allah Ta'ala's creations. You know, everything is because it's glorifying Allah, and He made it. And you know, Sarah was talking about how looking at snow and its purity, and it's beautiful. And she lives in New York, so she said she doesn't see too much nature. And I was sharing how I saw this big, it was a huge cloud. It was just straight flat on top, like a wall. Truly, it felt like there's another world beyond it. It was huge. It expanded all the way down. We were in an open park, and it was amazing to watch it. And so we were talking about how everything is a sign. Everything in its way points to the existence of Allah. And it glorifies. It's not necessarily glorifying with voices like we do, but in its own existence, it points to the creation of, points to Allah Ta'ala as a, and then we talked about it, even when something is not perfectly balanced, it still has beauty. It still has something that is amazing about it. Like autistic children have amazing qualities. It's something unique about each thing, and it's the absolute uniqueness. Imagine our fingerprints are different for each person. For billions and billions of people, we all have two eyes, but there is nobody who has exact same eyes. Subhanallah. And a single center, like concentric circles. Yes, all of creation is in circles around. The single center that holds us all together is Allah Ta'ala, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So that's just something we thought about. That's it.
Assalamu alaikum. I was volunteered second, so I'm just gonna jump in. Right, so our group, we discussed, I guess in a way we traveled through the power of our imagination into the micro world, starting with our bodies and arms and legs, and then organs, and then cells, and then within the cells, different aspects of the cell, and atoms as well. And then we did a little zoom out, and then we thought about the universe and how everything is connected and interrelated to one another, and how everything at all times, like an orchestra, is glorifying and praising the one worthy of endless glory, the one worthy of endless praise. And I guess we tied the bow on this with a final thought of having the opportunity to always join this orchestra that is always happening at all times, but not only join it, but inshallah having the opportunity to also lead the orchestra, inshallah, having that opportunity open to us at all times. And to the degree that the praise extends is the degree to which we have that opportunity, I guess, to reflect and inshallah consciously join in.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry to cut in. I just have a question about that, about leading the orchestra, if anyone can just elaborate on that. Our session got cut out before I can ask.
So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran is speaking about Ayub. He is saying that he has subserved the mountains and the birds to praise with him. Like usually people are not aware of the praise that's going on. It's always going. David, yeah. So in that case, he was the leader of the orchestra. Like, so human beings have the potential to lead it. When you are like him, when you see the creation that way.
Okay. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Ali.
I don't know which group is left, but our group, we had Dr. Ziba Rizvi start us with the notion of glorification being related to being careful not to steal or claims and attributing claims to oneself. So I personally it made me pause the word steal. And Sister Jalila was saying perhaps a speaker at the Labbaika series had introduced this word or had used this word, that human beings steal maybe blessings and attributes as though they come from ourselves. So the tasbih and the glorification.
The word used was most probably appropriate rather than steal. What we do, when we are in a state of shirk, in a state of ghafla, we are definitely appropriating things to ourselves and to the creation themselves.
So because Dr. Ziba used the word steal, it was alarming, and for me, I found it interesting, because then it's really interesting to ask oneself, what am I stealing? Because maybe I don't see myself.
The word is used, if you read the 30th word, which is about the I, the ego. Imam Nursi uses the word stealing.
Okay, so we discussed that for a bit, and then we discussed how it's much easier to see things in nature versus in ourselves. So all of us agreed that we're questioning how we glorify. I personally asked this question, that when I read one of the earlier lines in the 13th window, it made me question, okay, how do I glorify God in my own tongue? What is that? Beyond the obvious, beyond saying subhanallah. So we discussed that for a while, and Sister Sausan Dr. Sausan Abadi was distinguishing between human versus objects, and the glorification, the difference in glorification. But again, we all pause together that it's at the human level that is interesting, that may be challenging. Both Dr. Sausan and Dr. Ziba, they speak to, and I do as well, we speak to plants, so it's a bit easier and more direct to see that connection with God in nature. But with people, it becomes trickier. With ourselves in particular.
Thank you. More?
One thing attracts my attention, if I can join in, is the verse is suggesting that not only living beings, but everything. There's nothing that
There's not.
Yeah, so that is striking. Nature is part of it, but then everything, and Sasan was saying, even rocks, but then even beyond rocks, I'm now in the attic. I just happen to look at the ceiling, and this is glorifying, and then the light bulb is glorifying. Like how is that? And one key word for me was innate disposition, like in their nature. I mean, the light is always acting consistently. If you connect certain circuits, it becomes, light. All the darkness becomes light. The ceiling stays up like this. If you think about it, it could come down, but it stays like this because it is following a very meticulous order that we can trust, and we can, do all these buildings and stuff. How is it that these walls are glorifying? So I wish I could live more aware. I mean, oftentimes in the halakha, I get very excited, and outside of the halakha, unfortunately, oftentimes it's a kind of a different way of being. It's more like one time Dr. Yamina said, where we live in autopilot. So I find my way around the house, around around life, and without much glorification, and without seeing that glorification. And there's a connection between glorifying ourselves, and the more we glorify, we see. The more we see, we glorify. So it's something, inshallah, that these halakas, every time I come, give me excitement, push. Inshallah, we can nurture it more. If I could share one more thing, that one thing that struck me here as well is that I used to think about this verse as saying everything glorifies God, thing as items, right? The plant, the sun, and the table, like everything. Even though I tend to think more about nature, but everything. But these are items. I used to think, and every item is glorifying God. Whereas with this tafsir, it dawned on me that it doesn't necessarily say every single thing. It implies that, but in addition, there's nothing that doesn't glorify. There's nothing is not just not a single item only, but also like beauty is something, or these qualities. So everything, whatever I see, and sometimes in the table I see sturdiness, sometimes I see design on the table. So everything glorifying God in its own particular tongue. So this notion of tongues is very interesting, that things have these tongues in which they are singing God's glories, and it doesn't have to be one tongue per one item. So the table has one tongue. No, the table depends on how you look at the table.
And also because items and beings are not static, so they are always in interaction with the rest of the world. Those interactions, those relationships are also signs. They are also glorifying.
Yeah. So there are many unique ways of glorifying God, which is, I hope, inshallah, I will more live consciously with this week and beyond.
When Maha was mentioning in the group, they talks about how we glorify God. So I am assuming that you're talking about the consciously glorifying God, because there is, like, as a being, human beings also glorify God like every other creature, every other creation, regardless of our choice, of our will, of our intention. Then when we are told sabbih, like glorify God, then it becomes consciously, mindfully choosing and intending to glorify, which means when I intend to glorify, my first question is, how do I glorify? What does it mean to glorify? It's like when we are told, Iqra bismi rabbika, we say, what does it mean to read in the name of God? Here, it's like, what does it mean? So we look at the creation around us and we are told they are all glorifying. Look at them, you will learn. Once we learn how they are glorifying, we will do the same thing, and we start glorifying consciously, mindfully. Look here how the author is starting, mentioning the ayah, then saying everything recalls its creator through its own particular tongue and declares to his holiness. This nuqaddis is in the Quran, for instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, when we are told the angels say, why are you creating human beings? He will bring whatever corruption and shed blood. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And we glorify you with praise and وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. So nuqaddis is taqdis is a result of tasbih. But he starts with saying, the author is saying, yes, the glorification, the tasbihat are being of all beings utter audibly and through their tongue, the tongues of their beings, the way they are being created, demonstrate the existence of a single most holy being. The testimony, the shahada of innate disposition may not be rejected, especially if the evidence comes from all sides. So he is saying, like we are saying, look, something is going on in the world. It's amazing. They are making tasbihat. Yes, but what does it exactly mean? Look, he says, look. This look, you find it very often in this tafsir. Why? Because it is taken from the Quran. In the Quran, it's again and again, أَفَلَمْ تَرَى, أَلَمْ تَرَى, don't you see, don't you see, don't, or look, انظر. So here it says, look, the well-ordered forms of being. The forms were mentioned in the 12th window. So we need to remember earlier in another window, when we talked about ahadiyya and wahidiyya, there were two different windows. Because we cannot comprehend, we cannot even consider the whole of creation. Forget about the past and the future. Even in space, we cannot. And even if we could look at a large area, we cannot fathom them all and then find out how they are speaking about God, because it's just too much for us to handle. And that's why Imam Nursi explains and gives example from the Quran, how it says, you look at one single thing, ahadiyya, wahad, ahad. From there you go to wahid, to everything. Ahad, when you look at one single thing, in the Quran it says, God creates everything, but then it says, look at your food, look at the camels, how they are being created, look at the sky, look at the clouds, look at the rain. Each time we are given one single event, phenomenon, or being to consider, because only then we can follow the steps that shows us that this, for instance here, the well-ordered forms of being, which through their manner of creation, the way they come into being, comprise endless testimony and offer evidence in innumerable ways through the tongue of disposition, lisan al-hal, and look to a single center like concentric circles. All these tongues, and then similarly, the well-proportioned and balanced assemblages. Today I was walking as usual in the afternoon, and I paid attention to trees, and I decided to pay attention to the shape and forms, because I had just read this 12th and 13th window. And most of the big trees, they don't have leaves anymore, but there were lots of shrubs with all kinds of leaves. And subhanallah, the leaves have all different forms, different colors, different, yet how do we all call them leaves? We know they are leaves. It means it's this concentric circles. They are all at the circle, the center, we know they are all one thing. all different forms, but somehow they are all coming from one single center. Even the dead leaves on the ground, they all, and when you see the trees, they all are different trees, seemingly different shapes, yet they are all trees, and somehow they have some similarities that we recognize them as trees. They are all very different, yet somehow similar. And so we need to stop and reflect on this. All different, yet similar. What does it mean? Can it be who could be, how can they be doing it themselves? Who is the maker? How are they being made? So we have to stop there and reflect. Reflection means we have to be until our heart is fully satisfied, because there is a certainty. We are convinced that yes, this can't be happening except by one will, one source. They are coming from one single source, and there is will and there is choice. Someone is choosing one to be different from the other, but they are all coming from one thing. It's like the example given from Ahadiyya and Ahadiyya. Wahidiyya was the human face. All different, yet all similar. So the maker of one has to be the maker of all. And this maker, it's not a machine. It's not happening automatically, because there is choice, each one. And within that choice, remember, there is knowledge, because only the one who knows all the faces, not only now, but in the future, in the past, is making this face different from all of them. So there is knowledge, there is all-encompassing knowledge. The fact that everything is interconnected, that's why he says that it's like a single center of concentric circles. There are concentric circles, they are all different, yet it's one center. They are all leaves, they are all trees, they are all coming from one single source. And the fact that there is so much variety, it also looks to wisdom, to knowledge, to power. And they are all so, instead of, in the beginning, we tend to go from one thing to another, which is good too, but then we need to focus on one thing. Here is focusing on the order. The well-ordered forms offer evidence in innumerable ways. This is something that we need to learn to reflect, stop. And if anything comes, but maybe it's a law, maybe it's that, then we need to consider it. Is it really? How is it possible? Because we need to find the beautiful names of God in each in each quality. The well-ordered form is a quality. Once we become convinced, then we can apply it to everything else. So, because when we become convinced, it becomes easier to remember when we see it, and it becomes easier to not forget. And the well-proportioned and balanced assemblages, all testifying, all glorifying God. And they all demonstrate a necessarily existent one as light, the same way as the light Nur shows the sun. If you see light, if it's light, you go out and it's light, or even if you don't see the sun because of clouds, we still know that the sun is out there. So he's saying, when you see these things, you understand that there is a necessarily existent one. And up to now, it was always the existence of this universal maker, this creator, is necessary, plus the perfection. It's perfect rububiyah, and now it's perfect uluhiyah. So far it was perfect rububiyah. The perfection, as far as we can see this. So,
Dr. Yamin, there are a couple comments here.
Please, yes.
Yeah. Did you want to talk your comment, Brother Mohsen? Talk a comment. I know it's not grammatically correct, but okay, maybe he doesn't have a mic.
Dr. Yamina, I have a question. Assalamu alaikum.
1 second. Can I
Sure.
I'm going to read the comment. I wanted to see if the person who wrote the comment wants to read it. Yeah. Okay, anyhow, then I'll go ahead and read the chat box. So Brother Mohsen said, it is, استعوذ بالله, إن الله يمسك السماوات والأرض أن تزولا. It's a verse from the Quran. It says, Allah who sustains the heavens and the earth, lest they cease to exist. Like if he does not sustain the existence for the smallest time period, it will vanish. And so this is one verse he shared, and the other one is, and he is with you wherever you are. استعيذ بالله وهو معكم أينما كنتم. So he's with everything and sustaining it all the time, and therefore everything is praising him. I just think of it as he is holding every atom in the universe, hence he knows everything. Thank you.
That's totally what we want to confirm. We want to come to this conclusion. The ayah is showing us the way, so we go follow the way, come to this conclusion, come back to the ayah and say, yes, Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God, whatever God said is the truth. This ayah is the truth. So the ayah has, I cannot just read the ayah and then say, therefore God is. That should be my conclusion. Otherwise, this ayah has not fulfilled its purpose for me. I have not used it as guidance. So it's like a map. I have the map. The map says there is a treasure right here. There is a location on the map, and it says the treasure in here. And I say the treasure is right here. You see, right behind these mountains or whatever is in the map. All correct, but I have not seen it. I have to take that map, go out on the field, walk, follow the map until I go there, open and find the treasure, and I say, yes, this map is correct. I found the treasure exactly as it says. Now I have no doubt. I am totally convinced. I have yaqeen that everything is sustained by this power, this whatever, all the names you can see, that belong to only one being, and that is God. Because everything is interconnected in such a way that I can testify, I can see, I can experience that the maker of one thing can only be the maker of everything. You remember Hadiyat Wahidiyah?
Yeah.
Everything in the past, in the future, I've never seen them. I don't care. And right now, I can testify that the maker of one thing can only be the maker of all things in the past, in the future, in this world, in other worlds. It doesn't matter.
I think it's easier for you because you're a quantum physics expert. So for you, time, space, you saw those connections, and in your study.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
Or
today.
it's a bit harder, you know.
No, it's a matter of staying with it until your heart is find that tranquility because of the certainty. And that's why here, look at the 12th and the 13th. It's not even talking about very complicated things, talking about what we see first. And that's what I tried to do today. I was walking and looking, and I was telling myself, you mean, don't talk, think about the things you know. Look only, focus on what you see now, all these shapes and forms. Because even when you look at outer forms and shapes, I remember once I was reading something about, how do you call them, those panels? Sun, you know, to make electricity and things they put on houses.
Ziva installed, Ziva. What was it?
How are they called?
Solar panels?
Solar panels. Okay, thank you. So I think it was something to do with solar panels. And so at first sight, trees may seem like a mess, you know, mess of tangled branches and especially now that they don't have the leaves to cover, just like branches, like as if randomly going around. But when we look carefully, you can see that there is somehow a pattern, even to the naked eyes, even if we have not investigated anything, there is a pattern. That's why we recognize trees. But the way the branches branch off, the way they grow, and the shape they end up forming. And some people went around and measured them, and they found that the branches and the leaves sprout according to patterns that can be written mathematically in as fractions. So oak trees have a fraction of 2/5, elm trees half, beech, willow, almond trees, and they calculated for different trees. And this order, so it means it's not random, because in each species there is the fraction comes again and again. And this order has some benefits. So there are studies that show that these ratios and the resulting patterns, they yield efficient ways to collect sunlight. And actually, after investigating how trees are exposed to sunlight in the most efficient, or in a way that maximizes their exposition to the sunlight. So researchers discovered a new way to increase efficiency of solar panels, and using the tree designs rather than flat panel models. So the tree design makes more electricity and collects sunlight longer time. And the most interesting thing was in the winter, like in December or whatever, when the sun is at the lowest point in the sky, the tree design makes even more, like the percentage is even higher, and the collection time is also much longer. And so this tree, the designing, following the designs of the tree, it also takes up less room than flat panels, one next to the other. And there is the shade, you know, when the weather is like under snow or something, it gets, how do you say, less damage. And the taking less room is interesting, because in very thick forests, trees are one, or trees or other plants are very, when the more dense they are, the more it becomes difficult to get sunlight. And remember, getting sunlight is a key to the survival of trees and plants. And the leaves needs to have some access to sunlight because they act like the solar panels for trees. Because remember, that's how they get their food, photosynthesis. And so the fact that they can maximize the collection or their exposition to sunlight through the way it is, the design and the ratio, and it takes less space, so they don't have to fight for space as if like one won't be shading the other or shading the minimum, subhanallah. And this is a benefit as far as the plants and the trees are concerned. It's a matter of death and life.
That's another tongue.
That's yeah, but so the more we learn, the more we will see tongue within tongue within tongue. But even without, so I was, because I had read this before, I was thinking, no, don't think about this. Just look at the shape from outside. Even that speaks in many tongues. The more you stay and look, and subhanAllah, this something is coming, because there were also in some houses, there was like a big trees cut, the old trees that they had probably cut down, and it was just wood, dead. Yet this wood was growing and having these branches, and you could recognize, even without leaves, if you know a little bit about trees, you will recognize that this tree is this kind, looks like this one, but this tree is a little bit different, because not only the size of the trunk and things, but also the shape of the branches. So the forms and the shapes tells us something about the species. It means it's not done haphazardly. It means it's following wisdom, following knowledge, following purpose. They are all coming from one source. That's telling me, the fact that I can recognize that, they are making their glorification when I stay there and stay with them and reflect with my heart, and recognize the glorification. It makes me say, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Someone who knows everything, this kind of tree, whether it's here or 10,000 miles away, it will be the same. I am sure I don't have to see it. How? That's the testimony that there is order, there is will, there is purpose, there is meaning. And all this indicates and points to one single source, Subhanallah, Al-Alim, Al-Kareem. So now we have to always go to the creation, look at it and reflect by means of the ayah. So the ayah you mentioned in the comment, I can take it, go, stay with the creation until I come back and say, Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Yes, they are all sustained by one power, one source of knowing and wisdom and whatever the names of God you see there. But I can't just come, say, I'm a Muslim, therefore I believe in the Quran. Just a second, what is the Quran? What does it mean to believe in the Quran?
So Dr. Yamina, you're saying that if this is a treasure map and we see the treasure is under this, then dig it.
Yes. Dig it. And then you will you will say, yes, this is a
Yeah.
treasure map. This is truly a treasure map. Truly follow, guys, you all follow, go, dig, you will find the treasure there.
Mm-hmm. Very beautiful ayat that are, you know, showing us where to dig, you know. So when we hear these
and how to dig,
God sustains everything, heavens and earth, lest they fall. Wait a second, I don't think about heavens and the earth as needing sustaining. Wait a second, and then it can be an opening to reflect and confirm. And it's beautiful, as Sarah said in the chat in response to this comment, that, you know, these two beautiful connections between these verses, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, brings it inward. If he's everywhere, he's also with me at any time. And if we can confirm these, that will be beautiful.
That will be the result of reading and recognizing the tasbihat and making tasbih myself, you know. Beings making tasbih, they are declaring the perfection, they're declaring who their maker is, the perfection of their maker, that he is beyond any deficiency that we may attribute it to him. And then when we confirm this within ourselves, then we will find out that truly he is, first, he is far from any element of shirk. That's why we say Subhanallah amma yushrikun. Subhana is tasbih. Subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. And then that he is, he's, yeah, not only he is with us, he's with everything, wherever we are, in whatever state we are, because of the other ayah that comes through. Because without him, there will be nothing.
Yeah.
He's Qayyum.
Yeah.
He's the one with whom nothing can subsist.
Naima wrote on the chat that we talked about in their group connecting with Surah Alaq and Iqra, and what does it mean to read in God's name, and the depth and connection to the tongues. She also added that the way we read things, our default is limited in understanding and perspective. I agree completely. I have to push myself to be intentional and try to witness. Sarah loves what Dr. Yamina shared about. Don't think about what you already know. Focus on what you see. Just look at the shapes and forms. Because I need to be reminded not to just recall some information that's safe and just pause and see what comes. 2, in quotation, interrupt the habitual way of thinking and seeing the world, which is a quote from Dr. Yamina's book, Living with Genuine Tawheed. And she also shared the link to that to Amazon. So this has been, mashallah.
And Sarah wanted to say something. Thank you for all the comments, by the way.
Yeah. And as the time is drawing close, so we can maybe take another comment or two briefly. And before we go on, I also wanted to remind that as you may see in the newsletter, that registration for the annual retreat is now open, and you're welcome to check the website and see the details for the annual Receiving New retreat, which will be first time online this year. And so is there anyone who wanted to briefly ask a question or make a comment at this time?
Yes, I had a, sorry, somebody else. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Maha, go ahead.
So this all sounds amazing, mashallah, and every reflection in nature fills one with awe for sure. Now, while I was listening to all of this, and I absolutely believe it's true, I couldn't help remembering reading Surah Yasin earlier. And then I asked myself, how does all this inform, how does any beauty and any glorification and any amazing, miraculous creation, how will it make a difference if we are exposed to God's punishment or God's wrath, or even وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون, which is in Surah Yasin. And some people read Surah Yasin daily, and it's ayah number 9, which is scary. So how do we resolve and reconcile all the beauty and the miraculous beauty, actually, and majesty of God with something as simple as, all right, how is this going to help me if I get punished by God? The beauty out in nature is not going to do a thing for me. What do you say, Dr. Yamina?
First, it would take longer time. Second, we did touch on this topic many times. Third is we will know when we do not only recognize, oh, it's a miraculous beauty, and we feel some awe without staying with it. That's why cultivating that awe, and until it translates within us into certainty, knowing God with his beautiful names, realizing that that miraculous beauty is the reflection of the beautiful names of God. It means it is God creativity that we are experiencing. Then we get closer to God. Then we will understand how much or what the meaning of whatever we mean by this punishment and things, which is actually, in a way, we can understand it as being away from God's rahmah, from God, from his mercy, from meaning, from purpose. So the punishment, the ultimate punishment, is to be deprived of that. And that we do to ourselves most of the time by willingly, by default, by not willing, by not intending to be consciously living with the reality, with the consciousness of our connection with God, as the beautiful ayah that was shared, that we would not exist and nothing would exist if God were not sustaining us constantly. We somehow foolishly leave that and live as though we exist on our own. That is worth, that foolishness is so huge that it makes us deserving of not being, not benefiting from God's infinite rahmah, infinite beauty, infinite all beautiful names of God, because we are the ones who put ourselves in that state of disconnection. So this is, I'm giving you a very shortcut answer. Just for instance, in something that I always share for other things, but for instance, for this tasbih, we know that in many passages in the Quran, we are told, for instance, I think it's in Surah An-Nur, أَلَمْ تَرَى أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالطَّيْرُ, etc. أَلَمْ تَرَى, do you not see that it is God, that everything in the heavens and earth and the birds and this and that are all glorifying? And man is conscious. It means they are consciously, everything is consciously glorifying them. Don't you see? If I read this ayah and pass or say we should see and then I never seen, then, and I'm talking about the best, because most of us either don't read, or we read and don't even reflect on the meaning. We just read as ibadah, which is okay, but we are not supposed to only read the Quran as prayer, as dua, as invocation. We are also supposed to read it to reflect. We are also supposed to reflect and understand and practice the guidance. We are also supposed to reflect on life, on the creation, by means of what we understood in the ayat. So I ask myself, that's why I always say be honest, if I never seen, if I don't see how everything is glorifying God, then I am not reading this ayah, and then I can't know what the message is, what the guidance is, who is speaking, God, and so I can't. Do I have, or let's ask the question, can I ask a question like that when I have not done the preliminary work, the preparation? If I don't know who God is yet, can I ask a question saying, how come, or what does it mean that God will punish me? Who is God and what is punishment first? Let's understand that, and then things will start getting clearer. And this Alam Tara, do you not see? Do you not see that it is God who creates this and that? Do you not see that it is God who sends water from the sky? Let's be honest. Do you see that it is God that is sending that? So it's not saying I can say, yes, of course, God creates everything, but that does not lead me anywhere. It's better than denying, because denying goes against the fitrah, because fitratan, the way we are created, we have been created knowing God, knowing his beautiful names, but at the seed level. It means we know there must be something, but who is he? We can't know without the guidance of the Quran. Otherwise the Quran would be superfluous, but it is not. It is totally needed. I need God to reveal himself to me, and he's revealing himself to us in life, in his creation, but we cannot make sense of it until he speaks clearly with words that we understand, and so we can read his act of creation. This is what Imam Nursi says. He speaks as he's created, and he creates as he speaks. He creates and he speaks in the Quran, and the two explain each other. Like think of it like a movie, and the sound. The sound without the pictures. If the screen is black, we don't understand what's going on. Reading the Quran without going and checking it in real life, or studying the creation, like atheist science. That's modern science, is atheist science, excluding the maker from their studies and trying to make sense of things. You can't. Of course, it may work. You find things, and you can have technology working or something, but you can't say that you understand what's going on and the meaning of what's going on, because you need the maker to reveal the mysteries and secrets of his creation, and the meaning and purposes of his creation. And so start with this. Do you not see that it is God, to God that everything, that, or God that everything creates, who is actually everything, who is in the heavens and on earth, yusabbihu, glorify, even the birds and whatever and everything. So that's a shortcut to the, but it's an important question, and it needs not one session, but it needs maybe, Maha, you can organize that, something like Labbaik. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So there were additional comments on the chat box. Alia said, by depriving ourselves from joining the universal glorifying orchestra, I think she's referring to being veiled from God. So
she said disconnecting from God.
Right. Yeah.
We are not part of the orchestra of dhikr.
Yeah, we are depriving ourselves. And there's a verse that came to mind. استعوذ بالله ما يفعل الله بعذابكم إن شكرتم وآمنتم وكان الله شاكرا عليما, which translates roughly as, why would God punish you if you are grateful and attain to believe, seeing that God is always responsible.
Thank you. This,
knowing.
yeah.
This is Surah 4, Surah Nisa, Surah 4, verse 147. And Allah shared a hadith in which it's from Abu Huraira, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that God said, I am as my servant thinks I am. I am with him and he makes mention of me. If he makes mention of me to himself, I make mention of him to myself. And if he makes mention of me in an assembly, I make mention of him in an assembly better than it. And if he draws near to me in an arm's length, I draw him a cubit. And if he draws near me a cubit, I draw near to him a fathom. And if he comes to me walking, I go to him at speed.
Subhanallah. Yes.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. So it's a beautiful hadith. And then Mohsin said, if we can get to know La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, we might find an answer. So
yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's almost 10 o'clock. I know Sister Saira had a question. Maybe we can hear the question, and then depending on whether we answer it now or later, Dr. Yamina, it's your call. Go ahead, Sister Saira.
Thank you so much, Isra. Very quickly, Dr. Yamina, I read somewhere online on one of these Islamic question boards, somebody else has put the question that when do animals die? And as I shared here that my parakeets passed on suddenly. I've been again all over traumatized by their loss. It said something to the effect, I don't know if it is a hadith or somebody in scholars in the past was made aware of this by a Sufi answer, or that when Allah Ta'ala decides to take the soul of an animal, their tasbih is complete. And when their tasbih is complete, that's when Allah calls them back. I don't know if it is true for us also. So the point of tasbih does make sense to me, that in all my hard times, when even my beloved parents and siblings are with me trying to comfort me in my illness and my grief, there are moments when I'm by myself at night or in the bathroom even, I call on to Allah. So automatically, with the timer of my lifetime going down in His time, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's time, the tasbih counter is turned on. And it's turned on in a very, I would want it to be turned on in a better circumstances, happier times when I should have remembered Allah more. But there is that parallel recognition also that tasbih reminder has awakened in me by listening to you, by listening to other groups that I've joined, that how important it is that Allah is there's a thought that comes to my mind, God, na'uzubillah, often Allah, you don't need anybody to quantify to you that you are great and you are the most powerful. Then why the big deal? Why shaitan in our way? Why getting Adam and Hawa out of the heaven? Why putting humanity through losses and griefs, right? Why loving you has such a tormenting effect? Why wanting to be closer to you first has the hurdles to be passed, which go through either sickness or losses? But then Allah answers that in the Quran. He says already that, be sure I will test you through something of hunger and fear and losses of wealth and losses of lives.
Okay, but there is something important there. I will just help you with asking question, because again, your question touches on a very broad, and it is related to Maha's questions in a way, but it's very broad. But the question is true. Allah says, I will test you with hunger and this. However, if I go through hunger, does it mean that it has to be tormenting or torturing? It all depends on how I see it. When I am in a state of ghafla, in a state of disconnection from God, it does not mean that I deny God. I may even think that I believe in God, but I'm only in a state of, I don't know who God is. I just don't deny him. When we are in ghafla, that's where we are. And so in that state, being hungry or lacking something, not only hungry in food, but like sickness or something, can be tormenting. I will, most probably, most people will experience it as, because we are unaware of the purposes and the meanings and the wisdom that looks to very high purposes, looking to akhirah, to eternal life, that look to the beautiful names, and parallel to this, that this life is transient, temporary, so short. Actually, it boils down to this moment. But when I went in ghafla, I can't see it that way. We don't experience it that way. And so we are drowned into, why is it not going my way? And because, of course, we have been created with the desire for health, the desire for well-being. But because I don't see it as a desire that is given to me to fulfill a purpose, I see it as ego-based. I like this, I don't like this. For no purpose, no meaning. And also as if this life is the center and the end and the purpose of everything, without realizing that it is so fleeting. When we are truly connected, when we learn to know God through his creation, of course, following the guidance of the Quran, but the Quran is the map, the translator, the interpreter. I have to go and actually witness an experience in the world and confirm and have that certainty. Then the same things won't have the same effect on me. Hunger will be a different way of getting close to God, and it doesn't have to be, do you need hunger to make me close to you? No, actually, without being full, hunger wouldn't mean anything. So hunger and satisfaction work together. And I would not ask this kind of question, because when you are in that path of surrender, in that path of who am I, like I is all the barakah, the blessing, the effulgence of his creation, of his. So there is the I that asks a question in a way that, like, why are you putting me in this difficult situation, as if we are separate, that I will surrender, and it will become an I that becomes like a unit of measurement. Yes, we have a sense of I, otherwise we wouldn't be able to ask questions and find answer to get further and further, like higher and higher in certainty, in grounding. in Iman, but not an eye. We are mostly aware that this eye is a unit of measurement, a tool given to us. It is not something to use against God, because it has no substantiality on its own. It is a tool given to us to understand things, to make sense of things. So we are, whatever comes, it is a ni'mah, it is a blessing. And sometimes we may not understand the purpose of things, but then we trust, because we know that whatever he creates is for our best. And even my desire to want the best is from him. I wouldn't know that I want the best if he had not given it to me. So there will be trust, tawakkul, which is the trusting God will make the surrender easier and easier. And of course, trust will come after Iman. Iman is when we know God through experiencing his presence, his beautiful names here and now in the world. The more we know him, the more the heart will love him, the more it is easier to trust his wisdom and surrender unto him, until we are relieved of the burden of what we think we are struggling to make a life, to make a living, to make sense of things. All that, as we are told in Shirah, Alam nashrah laka sadrak wa wada'na anka wizrak. Haven't we opened your chest? When our chest is open to that surrender, we feel that the burden is taken away from us. And then we will feel that our life and our entity, our being, and the being of everything is sacred, has more value through its relationship with God. That's why he's talking here about holy, holy. Everything becomes more holy.
Holy, yeah.
And also, thank you, Dr. Yamina, and thank you, Zaira, for the question. So just wanted to highlight that these are questions we all go through, and there's actually a nice reflection on Receiving Your website. It's called Balance of Opposites. If you go to Receiving Your website and type this, you will see it's a reflection on precisely these kind of questions. It might be helpful to visit this text where the person is sharing. Yamina is actually sharing how she had the same sense of revolting to, like, why am I going through this? Why? And then that turned into eventually an understanding, a deeper understanding that this is actually not against me, or is actually not an ego game. God is trying to say, I'm going to make you suffer until you prostrate to me. That's not at all what's happening. But it happens that we all feel in some way when things happen to us unexpectedly. So, Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina.
Thank you, everyone. Inshallah, all these questions, maybe Ma can take notes, and Maha is the expert in, arranging monthly or something series, inshallah. So maybe something for the future, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you, everyone. All the comments and shared ayat from the passages from the Quran and beautiful hadiths, all very, very relevant and very beautiful. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. And Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Inshallah, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Remember Friday as well. The trauma series is on Friday.
Yes. Thank you, Maha. Thank you, Isrâ. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Nice to hear your voice.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Hopefully by Friday I'm in a better spirit. Thank you, Dr. Yamina.
Inshallah. Fi amanillah. Fallahu
Thank you, Sarah.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.